It is now 6:30, and we will call the Personnel Finance Committee meeting together. And we always begin with introductions, just in case new people watch who don't know us. And so we'll start with Dave.
I'm Dave Johnson, a member of the committee.
Craig Miller with Weisniger Engel Insurance.
Tony Saylor, Parks and Recreation Director.
Chris Schubert, HR Coordinator.
Jim Thoreen, City Administrator.
Connie Hillman, Finance Director.
Dave Pritchett, member of the committee.
And I'm Mary Cook, Brainerd Council. And we always ask our dispatch rep to introduce himself.
Spencer Pickett, Brainerd Dispatch.
So welcome everybody, and a special welcome to Jim Thoreen, who is our new administrator and new on the job today. And we hope everything will go great for you. And
It will be perfect.
we're looking for that.
Well, I've been seeking perfection many years. I'm still seeking.
I thought you were a member.
I got a follow-up for that, but let's...
So the first item on our agenda is the approval of bills and payments to contractors. So what is your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 2 is the LMCIT premium renewal, and Mr. Miller is here for that, and I'm going to turn it over to him and kind of give us a little detail so we all understand it.
Yeah, I've got a few highlights I'd like to share with everybody, and I'll try to keep it brief and then answer any questions that you might have. But it's marvelous news what's happened with the renewal. You saw the summaries in your packets for preparing for tonight. Yeah, and the league program is exceedingly well run. It's extremely broad coverage, fit to the city municipality market with a dividend program. If prices are overpriced, so to speak, it comes back to you. We did get another individual to take the land use training earlier this spring, so we're full compliance, got the credit there. Thank you. I didn't realize it was you. So it's a great job there. Dividends were down a smidgen. They were declared back in December for the 2014 year. Your dividend will be $43,382, down from $46,442, and you split that with BPU. There was some claims. There was a heavy amount of claims relative to motor vehicle privacy access around the state. I'm not saying here, but this is across the state. There's been a number of lawsuits off of that. The things that impacted the city's renewal so positively is rates were down on the property and liability, the vehicles. Your experience rating factor was down about, maybe 13 points, around 10%, 9%. So between rates being down and your experience improving on this part of the package, you got a nice decrease. And you can see it all across the board for all the different departments and functions. Utilities is a bit different, but obviously there's some other things that come into play that we're working with there relative to their insurance needs. We did provide 2 alternate quotes maybe before I get into the alternate quotes. Data breach, that is a buzzword and has been affecting corporate America and obviously public entities as well. And the league has broadened their definition. You've got coverage in here up to, I think it's $3 million?
Yes.
Yep,
3 million, and they've broadened their definition back at the beginning of your policy year here. So where if there's intrusions into privacy data, employees or community members, you've got coverage. Let's see, the municipal excess liability, we have quoted that again this year for you. We've chosen not to do it previously.
Can you explain what that is?
It's extending your liability above your current Minnesota statutory, which is $500,000 per person and $1.5 million. You've always elected that, taking those limitations. And that's fine. Where you can run into issues is particularly with the police function. If you get into, those statute limitations are Minnesota law. Okay? If you get into federal court, those same caps do not apply. Okay, so you violate with a false arrest or some kind of civil rights issue. Those caps, and it goes into federal court, don't apply. So that's all, you know, you've had a great track record relative to any issues or problems that way, but it just takes one circumstance, and it could be more significant.
Now, the caps are what? The figure?
500,000 per person
Okay.
and 1.5 million in,
Okay, and
Okay.
that's only in Minnesota?
for
Or
Minnesota.
Minnesota law?
Yep.
Right. Minnesota.
Yep.
Statutory caps there, but on your quota is the excess liability quota of $37,000,
So it brings that, it provides the higher limits relative to that kind of
But
exposure.
it'll cost us
That-
$37,000.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
Do most cities take that coverage?
No.
Most of us just go with the state statute limits.
Correct. 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 Some of the biggest cities are self-insured relative to much of this. And you see the articles in the paper as to what they're paying out in those particular things.
roll of the dice, if you will, but okay, we don't end up in federal court. We're going to be talking to several attorneys, guaranteed. So,
Indeed, you would be.
okay.
No doubt about it. But it's something for consideration, and we want to bring that up, make sure you're aware of it. Okay? And then we have a bond option, increasing the bond. I think it was doubling the bond over the current level. I think that's in the figures too.
Yeah. An additional $491.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you bring up the points that Gary made? Our chairman was here earlier, and he asked you a couple of questions, and I thought you gave a good explanation, so perhaps you identify
Yeah,
that.
Gary had asked about, right now, they're on the large equipment that we list, mobile equipment, it's at replacement cost. So we'll buy a brand new front end loader, whatever the piece of equipment is, whatever it's scheduled. But even though it might be 5 years old, we'll buy the newest model, the current model. We'll replace it. His question was, what kind of difference in cost is there if we move to a more standard depreciated value? Similar to what happens on your car. You drive it off the lot, the car is not worth as much. And then they pay you that used car value. He was not aware of, and I don't recall any claim that we've had on any of the big equipment.
Not since I have been.
Yeah. I can check and see if there's any claims and get back in an email. We'll look through our records and everything.
I presume that his inquiry was because he wondered if it would be a lesser premium.
If the marginal savings would
Right.
be worth it, and I can find out that issue.
Because we're not making an investment, we're providing services. You're going to
Right.
have to replace that front end loader, no matter what the cost is. Yeah. So it would have to be considerable.
I'll find out what that cost differential is and get back to Connie with
Fair
that.
enough.
Sure.
And go
that-
from there.
Just so we know.
Yep.
Just so we know.
I think that's the long and the short of the actual renewal in front of you. There's probably two other things I want to touch on. One is the workers' compensation renewed back on January 1st, and we've worked a lot in that arena. That did have some increase. I think it was about 5%, somewhere in that range, plus some experience, that type of thing. That continues to be a challenge for all the insurance industry, workers' compensation. And I'll kind of give this right now. This is the kind of the outlook on insurance costs for budgeting for next year. We're all.
Yep,
Did you get this
I
already?
copied it out.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't copy it out to council members, but I received a copy of it.
Yeah. Insurance, workers' compensation insurance is going to continue to be a bugger when you look at this. 3 to 6% is their prognostication, early prognostication for next year.
What's the city's mod factor right now?
1.4, 3? Oh, 3, 4. Okay.
Something right around, it's over 1.
Yeah.
So we'll aim for 0.95.
Why has it increased?
Our claims experience. Well, why is workers' compensation going up in general?
Yeah, everybody's claims?
Yeah, there's probably a couple, 3 different issues, and we've talked about some of these issues. And one, we have an aging population in the workforce. We don't heal as well when we get injured.
But age is a blessing.
To quote somebody.
It is a blessing.
Okay. Medical costs relative to workers' compensation claims has continued to be, the trend is higher, and as of, there it looks like there might be some relief coming, but the fee schedule for workers' compensation claims versus health claims are different. So that's why the hospital and the clinic was this workers' compensation when you walk in the door.
So is there additional training that the city could implement that may help?
We're visiting about that quite a bit
Okay.
and trying to figure out what to do and what has been done. I would say, for the most part, it's been there's a lot of good practices in place, very good practices in place. I've been very impressed with as I've dug in. I was hoping to find areas we could remedy, but we haven't, because the practices are there.
One thing that I think is helping is we just formed the Lakes Area Regional Safety Group.
True.
And so we are doing training now more frequently with that League of Minnesota Cities program. And we also have the option through that program to do online training as well. And that is also at no cost to us.
Right.
So in the wintertime when it's a little slower, really bad weather, we're going to be recommending that employees look at those things as a refresher.
Was that last summer or last fall that started? Something? It wasn't that long ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a department that kind of leads in claims?
I wouldn't say there's any one department.
Okay.
There's claims in several areas,
Okay.
but we're trying.
Okay.
I think we're making a good faith effort. We're trying to be on top of claims. And we're reviewing claims as they come through to make sure if they should be closed or not, to
Right.
help us with that kind of information. So when they calculate our rate, that they're actually doing it based on what we've actually paid out, not what they anticipate sometimes for claims as well. And that's made a difference
Right.
too.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So I think all this folds in, and then you got to remember the workers' compensation claims are usually long-term types of payout claims. Investments, so insurance companies used to be able to make a lot of money on that reserve for a claim for long run, and that would help mitigate workers' compensation costs. Well, there's no investment return when you put that into the bond market in today's environment. So instead of being able to get investment return, they've got to charge more on rates to make up for that loss of revenue. I mean, there's all kinds of different factors coming into play. What we have to focus on is what can we control, and that's training and education with employees, and then managing when something happens on a claim. And those are the 2 areas we're focusing on.
Sounds good.
Okay, so questions, that's kind of the long and the short of it, of
Do either of you guys have questions?
No?
Have you got any quick explanation as to why the BPUs increased fairly significantly?
it mainly has to do with
Buildings and contents.
values that we're using there. And we're working with the folks over there.
They don't have a new building.
No, but we brought the dam in.
Down.
And so the costs associated with that.
All right.
That otherwise, no, it's what has been there, and we're going to try to meet either later this week or next week with Todd and Scott. Thank you.
Well, the news is good. It couldn't
Yeah.
come at a better time. So what is your pleasure, committee?
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there further discussion? Is there anything you would like to add, Mr. Miller?
No. Well, thank you very much, and we'll keep working and trying to find some avenues, particularly on the workers' compensation,
Yeah.
because that'll be a change.
So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Now you know you're welcome at the council meeting. I don't think you need to be there, but you certainly can be there.
Thank you.
So whatever fits your schedule.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, authorization to use budgeted strategic initiative funds, and that is, I thought Mark was coming back, he must have had to go upstairs. And that is to use $1,500 to advertise for the wheel and walk and wheel event. I did have a talk with Mark this afternoon, and I did ask to look at the budget, which you all have a copy of. Connie gave it. I wondered if he could take any of the money out of his existing budget. We would then, of course, have to at some point amend his budget. It's cutting pretty close. The areas that I thought he had, it looks to me like he'll have a little extra, is under miscellaneous and dues and subscriptions. And I did wonder about that. I had hoped he'd come because I talked with him and said, could you get by with half? We may have it in the fund, but we also have a budget coming up, and it would be nice, anything that we could save will help us for next year and help us in next year's budget. So I also worry a little bit about the precedent if various committees having events want to use city funds to do their advertising. It's just one more commitment that the council will be making that will certainly impact budgets as we go through.
Madam Chair, acting from a point of ignorance, if you will.
Please.
Strategic initiatives, you have a $20,000 budget. Is there a policy as to expenditures? For what purpose?
Not really. We're very slack on policy, something you and I...
I don't know if this is the $20,000 piece
we
that's
don't.
maybe not
We don't.
usual there, but
We don't.
still, if there's guidelines of some sort,
We don't.
it would be nice to know.
We don't
We don't what?
have a policy on the use of those funds.
I think that budget line item was established for, we had some money in there initially for grant matches. So in case of a grant came up and we needed to match some fundings, everything got rolled into that $20,000
Right.
from a budget standpoint.
Well, it's your pleasure. I want to see it move ahead, but I also want us to be very conscious of our budget because,
Right.
you know,
Well, I'd like to hear what Mark says.
I would
You know, it isn't a strategic plan, basically what he's proposing to do. So, I mean, unless a group comes forward that it fits in the strategic plan, I'm not, you know, you need to consider precedent,
Right.
but I don't think it would fall under that. I'm not sure what purpose it would serve to take it from his budget rather than the strategic initiative budget. I would like to hear about, you know, the cost of it and what he's hoping to achieve with this, but you know, I would move to approve so that we can discuss it as a full council.
Yeah, and I'll second the motion. I came in with the question of what exactly is the strategic initiatives budget? Why is there $20,000 there? It seemed like on its face, the name of it sounds like something that we would be supporting since it is part of the strategic plan. This is a committee of the city of Brainerd. It seems like it might be an appropriate use of the money to support our cause and where we're trying to go as a city. But
You know, if there's the design of the website, that would come out of that fund as well. If there was a grant, we could consider using it for that. So, I mean, it was just kind of we want to keep the strategic plan going, we want to keep it moving, and so money was budgeted to help with that effort.
so this is some of the same money we talked about the website a few months ago. We talked about accepting credit cards online and
That would be all of that.
That's all out of this budget.
Yes.
and that was one of my concerns was that if we don't use it out of this budget and we come to the end of the year and we have that 20,000, then we have a little bit of a heads up to start initiatives like the credit card, using the putting in the policy.
The credit card wasn't part of the strategic initiatives. The website was, but the credit cards was not.
What is the credit cards?
Oh, I'm talking about.
I know what it is, but where would it fit if it's not a strategic
It would be part of the
initiative?
capital, I would say.
Yeah.
Capital
Or I
budget,
would-
which
or-
was
or-
taken out for 2015.
Or IT. But you know, it's our budget and we can move funds around if we choose to do it. If we're insisting on giving it to him, now when I talked with him this afternoon, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I said, could you do it less? Like if we could take something out of your existing budget and something out of this one, could you do it less than that? Could maybe $850? And he said, this is what, I'm sure he'll say this is what he said. He said, we could probably do a couple of good ads with $850. So, I mean, I'm a believer that just because you put it in the budget, you don't necessarily have to spend it if you can save it and roll it into the next year. And so we'll have difficult decisions ahead of us.
Well, and I'll vote for it. I'm fine with it, but I'm not going to second guess them. I'm not on the committee. I'm not going to second guess what they're doing with their event. But if $1,500 could be much better spent than 4 ads in the Brainerd Dispatch.
No offense.
And every time I've worked at the Brainerd Dispatch, I get better rates than that.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions.
Yeah.
Was what do you base the rates on?
And we did get wonderful publicity without spending a penny on History Week. I mean, you can't beat what they did for us on History Week. And it didn't cost us a dime. In fact, we didn't spend any city money on any promotion for History Week, not one penny. And that's my goal for next year again. You know, if we're going to beg the city for everything, we're going to look at big increases every year. And I don't think that's certainly not from my perspective, right? So, well, I heard a motion, I heard a second. Do I hear anything else?
I'm going to vote for it now. We're going to bring it to council with a positive recommendation. I want to hear what Mark has to say, and I want to hear the opinions of my fellow council members.
Yes,
I could go either way.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm going to vote against it. So, 2 ayes and 1 nay. And, good Lord, are we all ready to the BPU one?
Yeah.
Who's Connie or Jim or Chris? All right, Chris.
Chris is on this one.
Yes. Our BPU meter department crew chief and also our electrical inspector, Jim Herman, will be retiring. His last day will be September 18th. And with that, we have some changes that are going to be happening at BPU. First of all, we've decided to change what this position does a little bit. We are no longer going to be doing electrical inspections for the city any longer. We're going to hand those over to the state. And then this position will no longer be a supervisory position. We realize the benefit of having a licensed electrician on staff, and that person will be continuing to perform maintenance and evaluate issues at our BPU facilities. So we've created this position. We have done a job description. We've worked with the union to set the wage, and we also worked with our consultant to assign the points for this position. And what you have attached here is a memorandum of understanding with the union setting the 2015 and 2016 base wage. And it is very similar to the wage that was approved for a position with comparable points.
And that's $31.35 per hour, cost savings of $317. Go ahead.
I just have a real quick question, because it says, is there a cost associated with the request? I can't say that I know tons of this in depth, but my impression in talking to a couple people is this was actually going to save us money.
In the long run, it will.
Okay.
Because this position will be paid less than Mr. Herman's position.
But there's an initial cost for switching it over, or?
Correct. Well, there's a cost for an employee, so I wasn't quite sure when I filled out this form. Is there a cost? Well, any employee.
$60,000 a year.
Yes, exactly. So, and is it budgeted? Yes, because we had budgeted his position
Now,
So it is a savings.
in the long run.
right. And the BPU pays for all of this?
Yes, it is a BPU employee.
Well, I hope it works well with the state too. Have we had any experience with the state taking it over? Or the state?
It's been many years that Mr. Herman has done our electrical inspections. However, the state does electrical inspections for many, many communities. We are one of the select few that is the opposite from what I understand.
Okay. Do you think our service will be as good?
I don't know that for sure.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Hope it goes well, and Mr. Herman certainly did a great job for the city. I felt he did. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Parks Department. Oh, goodbye, Tony. Quit being facetious. Go ahead. Take it away, Tony.
All right, with the July 12 windstorm that we had, there was some damage out at the parks, and one of which was the Gregory Park warming house. The shingles, many of them were damaged by the wind. We had two businesses come and give us some estimates on that, and because of what's underneath the shingles, the roofing, a lot of it is in very poor condition. Neither business would guarantee replacement of the shingles with that underneath the shingles. It's the building, I don't know, it's 70, 80 years old, I'm not sure, and who knows when the roof was last taken care of. But that being said, they both companies gave us, here's what you need to do to fix what's underneath the shingles. And should we only replace the shingles, there would not be a guarantee, but the price would be about $5,430. It's a octagonal building, and it's got a funky roof to it and everything. Our request is to follow what both businesses have recommended. Basically, do it right and get it taken care of properly. And that would range, let's see, between a written quote was $9,520. A verbal one was between $9,500 and $10,000. What we are asking is it possible to use money that was put in capital improvement for our office, the maintenance end of our office out in Lum Park? There have been $50,000 budgeted, and we used $25,198 of that. Now, it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Connie, but the phone system and the generator came in pretty much what was
About 100,000 together.
but
So-
pretty much what you had budgeted.
Right, that was there.
And so that still leaves us about a little over $24,000. We were wondering if some of those funds can be used to repair the warming house properly.
Tony, will the league pick up any of it if we go with this more complete project?
No.
The league won't pick up any of it
No,
then?
it was not part of the storm damage, no. They would pay a little bit for the shingle damage. That's
Okay, that was my question too,
Okay.
because it was storm damage.
So they aren't
So-
going to pick up, the whole amount is ours,
for the most part, yes.
right?
The heavy bulk of it.
Well, I think, personally, I believe that you are right to go ahead and do the larger job rather than just replace the shingles, because it should last a lot longer once you do that. And the money that's left, the 24,000 about, that was originally in your capital budget. And after we did the part that you needed earlier, I think we said, let's just roll that all into the city's capital fund and have one capital fund, which I think we can look at next year in the budget, how we set things up. I think it makes sense to see how we set things up, and I don't know how that will play out, but...
Another benefit would be that that's got a vaulted ceiling in it, a peak type ceiling. There's never been any insulation there.
Well, it'll be nice to have all of that
So this
done.
project would have some insulation, and that's going to be a lot of heat savings.
In the long
It's good for a
run,
warming house to be insulated.
Exactly.
in the long run, Mr. Miller, will that help our rates at all in general? No, it won't make any difference.
But if we don't do this part and we have another storm damage, it looks like, according to your memo, that the league would say, no, we told you once to fix it, you didn't fix it, so therefore we're not giving you either
Maintenance
anything.
issue.
So
And
I
we still have the
think,
bad sub roof, so.
right.
Madam Chair.
Well, yes, please,
Question,
Mr.
Tony.
Please.
Condition of the balance of the building is good? Good in the roof on it, and you're really good to go?
It's a very old building. It's going to stand for a long time. The roof would help immensely.
So if we take it from what's left, from what was originally your capital, then we have about 14,000 left in that total capital fund. So nothing had better happen anywhere in this city the rest of the year.
We did put $60,000 to start saving for future capital replacements yet that we have not spent this
Well, we
year.
don't need to spend every dime we got.
That is to pay for future capital items.
That's why
and
we
so
just
we'll
take
start
the
to save it. So I'm just letting you know that we're
We have more than
starting
$20,000.
starting to work for this.
Well, this is
Give
going to
us
be an
some gum
interesting
and a
budget
budget.
cycle. Well, what is your pleasure? What are your questions? Motion, second, any discussion? And this would be, from what remains of the capital fund. That would leave us about 14,000 then.
Yes, the money that was designated for the installation project at the
Okay.
park office.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, Tony, next item.
Next
You only
program
budgeted a
starts
minute
May.
for this one.
Yeah, 1 minute, Tony.
Okay.
No, I'm going to have two.
We just found out, I believe it was last Wednesday, the 29th, there is water pouring out from underneath the Gregory Park fountain. We definitely believe it is a water pipe issue. We have no idea what the extent of it is. I understand there are 2 water pipes converging underneath to shoot it up. We also believe that there may be some cracking in the bowl, because when we turned the water off, the water drained within a day.
Okay.
It was gone. And I don't think it was a lot of thirsty dogs. So, so we may have a bowl broke, we may have the pipe busted underneath, who knows with the extent. To repair it, we are going to have to remove the bowl, remove the stone wall around it. We have no idea what the depth of the foundation is because we can't find plans anywhere. It's going to be a major, major project. And I know a number of years ago, there was an issue with the fountain. And Troy, our maintenance foreman, was saying that if he remembered right, it was about $19,000, and that was a Band-Aid. So I wanted to make the council aware that for the Gregory Park fountain, we have a serious issue.
Well, you just are, this is informational tonight, and you
correct.
want to be able to explore it, and we need to.
There lies the problem. How do you explore it without getting under there?
But I do have a question for you. Do you have any money, I know you do, but how much in your park dedication fund?
About 48,000.
And so perhaps if, to do this job on this 1 minute item here, we may be able to tap into that?
I would hate to do that because we have so many other things that need to be taken care
Well,
of.
so do we all.
Well,
But I'm just
and-
asking what the
A
options
lot of
are.
the fund are dedicated to specific parks
Yeah.
too. You can't take JC Park funds and spend it on Gregory Park.
And also the park dedication fund is supposed to be for parks improvement, not repairs and maintenance.
Correct. That is correct.
So if we were
So
to
we
build
can't-
a new fountain, we could probably use
Well, it
park
sounds like we
dedication
might
fund.
have.
Yeah.
But if we,
Hook it up to the water tower.
yeah.
Yep, yeah.
Well, I think we'll have to look at any existing sources. Now, is that something there might be any insurance coverage on?
I am kind of doubting it. Normally, water damage, water pipe issues, I don't believe most of that's.
We don't have any kind, unless we can prove there was storm damage
Okay.
to it or something of that sort.
Earthquake.
The corrosion was caused by water.
Yes, there you go.
Well, it sounds like a BPU problem.
Yeah.
So if I do have any
Damn.
further information, I can bring you.
I think you need
library
to bring
work.
it back, but I would urge you to try to explore the funding as well.
Yeah.
Please try to explore it from every avenue, because we all have lots of things that we don't want to spend money on, but,
Yeah.
please, Tony.
Yeah, this can be, I think, a huge amount.
Oh, boy,
That's what we wanted to hear.
So, what
It
is
is what it
your,
is.
Yeah.
is everyone, we don't need any motion,
motion.
but
No,
is everybody
He has to
okay
figure
with
out what
that?
the problem is, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, then we go on to the next one, and I talked with Connie about this earlier in the week, and Patrick was here then also. And based on what I understood about it, I thought it would be a good thing to simply give a very, 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 very brief explanation to the council, but hold it and have everyone take some time reviewing it and talk about it. Because one of the things it would do would be to charge for every page that constituent member of the public might want. They might want to come in and say, could I have copy of an ordinance dealing with animal control. Well, right now, if it's 15 pages or less, we don't charge. Under this, we would charge for every page. You have to ask yourself if that's customer friendly. And how would we be able to lay off one staff person? Would we save that much? I don't think so. And so you have to ask yourself, I think, is the inconvenience to the public worth it? And how the council will ultimately come down, I don't know. But I am not ready to do it tonight. So I thought the best thing would be to ask people to review it and come back maybe in September with a recommendation. How would that suit you?
Doesn't seem like it's an issue that needs to be resolved
No.
this instant.
No, it's not
I
pressing.
don't think so.
So broken pipes.
And there's a lot of stuff in here that you'll want to read over. Everyone will want to read over. Do you want to, either one of you want to touch on any major changes in it that you saw beside that dealing with charging for the material?
I guess for us, we're also looking at it, trying to understand the policy a little bit too. We, some staff members have some questions about it, so
Oh, good.
giving us a chance
Good.
to September will help us dig into that a little deeper and help us
Yeah.
understand it better too.
And one of the things I understood that we would be looking at in that, and perhaps that's more within staff, is how do we protect? How do we keep data privacy private? Maybe Jim wants to.
Well,
weigh
past experience in a couple of counties, I've been the responsible authority, and we've developed an internal policy. And under most, shall I say, ordinary exchange of requests for information, a 3-page document, and we print it, hand it through, and off they go. There are times when you can identify some perhaps adversarial positions. Or if we make a specific, if you say, all right, give us a specific request. Don't simply say, I want this, and it's kind of covering the waterfront. No, back up and make the request for this data. And then we inform them, here's how much time we'll need to compile this, and it could range from 12 pages to 1,200 pages. The circumstances I have some concern over would be when somebody in an adversarial position that is made known coming into you, we want to be very precise. What precisely do you want to identify exactly what it is you're seeking? And we won't cover the waterfront. And oh, by the way, if you want to view it, you may, and that's their choice. If they want copies of it, we'll reproduce it at this cost, plus time to compile it's all legitimate under the Data Practices Act. But under normal circumstances, if you're handing out a 2 to 3 page document, okay. But sometimes it's much preferred to be precise in what information you're seeking.
How about digital copies?
Well, they will tell us.
That's another
we can
story?
ask them what form and which do you want.
All right.
That's a fair question.
Okay.
All of our ordinances are on the website.
Yeah. How about emails?
Well, my experience is that, again, precise. All right, what emails do you want?
Okay.
If they say, I want every email from
Okay.
county's desk from the last 3 years, it's a strategic problem. It really is. That's why, going back to sound IT policy, if we have people sticking to business, doing what it is they're doing, and within bounds, we ought to have then clean slate.
Right.
But some of it is private, and we can't release it.
Sure.
So we need to identify that which
Right.
is and that which is not.
Well, I'm glad we're putting it on hold because it looks
Yeah.
like you may want to review
Yeah.
the entire issue. Department heads want more time to review it, and I hope the council reviews it. So is everybody comfortable just on hold then?
Yeah, I have one question. How
Please.
often do citizens come in asking for documents? It's kind of
The
sporadic.
only requests that I usually see are from unions wanting copies of our information to go against other communities.
Okay.
And so then we need to document what we're doing right now. We make them fill our current information request form out, and then we charge them accordingly. That's usually what I see.
Well, there are other people out there. There's a fellow that you may be familiar with and skewered me more than once on YouTube. He lives in Polk County, by the way. He's all over the state. And so when he comes in, we were very precise. We still have stacks of material saying, when you give us $314, you've got it. He hasn't given us $314. He doesn't have it. But there are those operators out there.
It'll be an interesting discussion as we move through it, but we're all in agreement, we hold it, and everybody will review it, and then it'll be back. And the last one that, and the minutes are included, we agreed to go out for RFPs for audit services for next year, and you see there is a proposed timeline in there that looked very reasonable to me. It would have our costs back in time for budget discussions, and so what is your pleasure?
I move to approve.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Opposed, motion carried. And we have Showcase Brainerd tonight, so we've got about 3 minutes to get up there. Is there anything else that we need to do at this meeting tonight? If not, thank you.